Satoshi Kon's Millennium Actress follows a reclusive former film star who, in recounting her life to a documentary crew, blurs her enduring pursuit of a lost love with the historical epic films she starred in. Chiyoko Fujiwara spends her entire life chasing a man she met once, whose name she never learns and face she barely remembers. It is a strange premise for a story, and stranger still for a life. Whilst Millennium Actress is sometimes read as a love letter to cinema, representing the genre history of Japanese cinema itself, we'll instead explore how Kon uses cinema to paint a portrait of a life so completely given to the pursuit that the chase stops becoming something Chiyoko does and becomes something that she is. And the question the film asks, whilst refusing to answer, is whether that life was beautiful or tragic. The first thing to notice about Millennium Actress is that Chiyoko is almost always running. She does this across every era, film, and costume. She's in motion, one of chasing, and this becomes the organizing principle of her life. Notably, Kon frames these runs similarly regardless of era. The same tracking motion, the same sense of forward propulsion, so that the costume changes, but the visual grammar does not. Through this repetition, what might have been the narrative fact that she's looking for him becomes something closer to her identity. Chiyoko is not someone who happens to be chasing. Chiyoko is a person who chases. The film gives us very little of the man she's chasing. The painter only appears briefly. We barely see his face, and he has almost no lines. For a story ostensibly structured around a great love, the beloved is strangely absent. The painter becomes less of a person and more of a horizon, and consequently a direction in which Chiyoko can orient her life towards. This is confirmed by the films that Chiyoko makes. Although their settings differ, the narrative remains constant, where her desire to chase after the painter bleeds into the pursuits that her characters carry out on screen. In other words, Chiyoko has never played anyone but herself. This also highlights how the chase has not only shaped her life, but also her art as well. Kon's use of match cuts is the film's clearest piece of visual thinking. Over and over, a motion Chiyoko begins in one diegetic layer, completes itself in another. She runs through a film set and emerges into a memory. She enters a door in one era and comes out another. The cuts are stitched so tightly that the viewer is made to constantly question which layer they're in. Is this a scene from one of her films? A memory? The film makes the question feel unanswerable. Watch also what the sound does across these cuts. The non-diegetic score carries uninterrupted across a transition that jumps eras. Kon is using the soundtrack to argue that these layers are one continuous experience. That for a mind so completely organized around a single pursuit, what happened, what was imagined, and what was performed have become the same thing. Genya, the interviewer, enters Chiyoko's story and becomes a participant in it, catching her, running alongside her. This is significant. Genya belongs to the frame story, technically exterior to Chiyoko's memories. Yet, Kon places him inside them visually. The diegetic hierarchy collapses around him, just as it collapses around Chiyoko. But Genya is not just a narrative device. He is himself a man in pursuit. Someone who has spent years chasing Chiyoko the way Chiyoko chases the painter. Through him, Millennium Actress suggests that the chase is not unique to Chiyoko. It's something that anyone, even the audience of her films, can experience. Ultimately, did the chase give Chiyoko's life meaning, or did it take her life away from her? The film chooses not to answer this, which is characterized through the figure of the crone. The crone haunts Chiyoko, appearing across her life and films seemingly unbound by era or diegesis, existing at the level of the chase itself. For most of the film, she is portrayed as an external presence. However, late in the film, it is implied that the crone is Chiyoko, an older Chiyoko looking back at the girl who gave her entire life to a chase. She says she loves her, she says she hates her. Perhaps you can look back at your younger self with both love and contempt. And you can recognize that the thing that gave your life meaning also consumed it in the process. Everything in the film builds towards this final moment. With the earthquakes that marked the beginning of her life now returning at its end, Chiyoko lies on her deathbed, and as the film comes to a close, she utters the final line.
だって私、あの人追いかけてる私が好きなんだもの。
She says this both as the girl who ran and the crone who watched. And in that final doubled voice, Kon shows us what it means to have run, to have watched yourself run, and to love what you chased simply because you chased it.